Good evening, class. My name is Ken Buffer. Have you ever been trying to listen to someone and then you kind of zone in and out and you're not able to understand what they said? So then you go back through and try to ask them, some questions, but you couldn't really figure out which questions to ask based on missing so much information. And then they have a confused and kind of a frustrated look on their face. And at that time, you no longer want to ask questions because you feel embarrassed. Well, tonight, that's what I'm here to talk to you about. Not being embarrassed, but actually being able to listen effectively. So at the end of this presentation, you should be able to have a few more keys and tools in your belt to be able to listen effectively so that you can go through life and understand and comprehend what people are saying and being able to apply it for yourself. So we're going to begin by talking about exactly what effective listening is, then going through why it's important to be able to listen effectively. Then we're going to touch on a few things as far as what shows you're good at effective listening, and then also shows some symptoms of what's showing that you're not so good as far as some bad behavior symptoms. Going into there, a couple of things I've put in to be able to help you to listen more effectively, to comprehend the information, and then we'll go through ahead and finish with the conclusion. So going into what effective listening is, I'd like to start with a quote from Abraham Lincoln. He said, "I don't know that man, or rather, I don't like that man. I must get to know him better." So effective listening is going with listening to the subject matter itself and leaving personal bias aside, being able to judge the information based on what is provided. From there, being able to ask pertinent questions as far as relating to the information that was given to you, and being able to provide feedback if necessary, and also solutions that you may have that relate to the information that has been given to you. Going into the importance of listening skills. Now, you may have heard this before. We all have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should use them proportionately. Pretty much what that means is try to listen twice as much as you talk. With this, you'll be able to engage more into what the person is saying. You're not just sitting there waiting for your chance to talk. Doing that can lead you into actually missing information that may be important or pertinent to the speaker's point that you may need to help you to understand as far as, or it may even cover what it is you were going to ask next. So with that, you'll know exactly what either to refute, to clarify, or that you have all the information you need and you have comprehended it. So this takes us into the symptoms of poor listening. When you are a poor listener, or even when you're talking to someone's poor listening, you can see that they do not understand what is going on throughout the conversation. They may not be engaged. They won't have proper eye contact. They won't know as far as what kind of questions to ask towards the end, in the middle. They may ask a question that was just covered because they weren't engaged, they weren't paying attention, and they missed that vital piece of information that would have helped them to understand what was currently occurring. They also wouldn't be able to ask any questions themselves as far as what's currently happening with the information going on. An example would be an instructor is explaining a subject of history and they give a date to it, and then they ask the class, what date is that later on? They wouldn't be able to answer that. So this takes me to my first aspect as far as helping you to improve upon your listening skills. And that would be taking notes. Now, being able to take notes will keep you focused on what the speaker is saying, on their words. You'll be able to go ahead and write down pertinent information as far as what you believe can help you in the future, or even anything you can go back to ask questions on, as far as something you heard that you may not have understood fully. So you want to go back through and clarify what the speaker meant by the words that they spoke. Now, a downfall to taking notes is you can miss some important information that's said. So if you take too many notes or just focus on trying to take everything down that they say, you may miss the main point that they're trying to focus on. So take notes, but please do it sparingly and only on things you believe are vital that you would not want to miss out on in case it comes back around for you. This leads me to our next tip to help you. And the next tip is eye contact. It's a commonly used one as far as when you're speaking, also when you're listening. It helps you to stay engaged. You are able to watch the speaker's body movement, so that way you can actually see their body language going through. It can help you understand what they mean, what they point at, what they believe is important for you to be able to remember. A downside of this actually can be glazed over. So let's say you start with eye contact, but your mind starts to wander. So of course you stay staring at them, but you're not really paying attention. So being sure to actually stay engaged, focus on them, focus on their words, blink if you have to. You don't have to stare at them the entire time, but actually looking at them every now and again. If they have a presentation up, looking at the presentation and back at them will keep you focused. Kind of like when you're driving on the road. You want to look ahead of you, but you don't want to stay focused right on the front of you. That's called tunnel vision. You're going to want to look around to make sure you get everything. The same thing with listening and eye contact. You're going to want to look around to make sure you get all the information that you need sent to your brain. So, in conclusion, we spoke about what effective listening is. We spoke about why effective listening is important. We went through a few things that help you to effectively listen. We went through some of the things that show you what are the bad habits. I gave you a couple of things you can do as far as taking notes and eye contact that will help you become a more effective listener, because that was the purpose of my presentation for you tonight. And this is the conclusion. So if you have any questions, please send me an email or write them in the comment section below, and I will be able to respond to you. Thank you. Have a great evening.